And we kick off this evening with a look at the cinema.
I'm not a complicated man. I like cinema.
It's beautiful, beautiful cinema.
Cinema history come to life.
I found my solace in the small cinema I went to every Thursday night.
I'm a professor of cinema.
I go to the cinema for the stories.
There was no competition between the cinema and seminar.
I mean, it's not within the realm of conventional cinema.
And now,
here's Payson Johnson
with a cinema review.
It is Monday, March 13th at 8 EST, and welcome back to episode 6 of Cinemaster's Review here on the Video Store. I'm your host, the Cinemaster, Payson Johnson, and we got a super exciting show today. We are going to be reviewing Scream 6, the 6th installment in the Scream franchise, and 65, a new movie about Adam Driver's character just crash landing on a planet that has some scary monsters. Ooh. But thank you all for showing up tonight. Before we go into our Scream 6, I would like to welcome our guest tonight. When I saw this movie on the calendar, I said there's only one person I know that knows this franchise, that knows this franchise back and forth, like more than anyone else I know. She is the one, the only, the great, Melissa Woody. Melissa, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. I'm a little tired, but I'm happy to be here, and thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Melissa. Well, let's just jump into our first review tonight, which will, of course, like I said, be Scream 6, directed by Tyler Gillette and Matt Bettinelli-Olpin. Takes place about a year after Scream 5, which came out about last year. Sam and Tara Carpenter, the new leads that we followed from the last movie, have moved to New York, and wouldn't you know it, trouble seems to follow them wherever they go. Melissa, why don't you tell us what are your thoughts on the Scream franchise, and specifically the last entry, Scream 5?
Yeah, I will say I was not really a fan of Scream 5. I am in the boat of, like, I think Scream 1, 2, 3, 4 are perfect. I'm a big Scream 3 defender. I actually love that film. I was very nervous that they were like doing a continuation of this franchise. And I was a little bit nervous going into this film just because, again, I didn't really care much for Scream 5, mostly for the simple fact that I find it pretty forgettable. I did not get a chance to rewatch any of the Scream movies before this one, but so I tried to stay like fairly open-minded going into this one, even though I was fairly disappointed with the last one. But I will say I did enjoy this one.
That's great to hear. No, I really find it interesting. I'll be honest, we do have sort of differing opinions on the last one. I quite enjoyed the last one. It's not one of my absolute favorite ones, but I think it was a really cool way to go in the right direction. I really loved that we were finally getting like newer characters. I was a little confused by how they used the legacy characters in the last movie, because my thought was like, if we're going to be introducing these newer characters, we should really be trying to take a step back. And that is one of the reasons why I really, really enjoyed Scream 6, is because this is the first film in this franchise where it seems like the characters of Sydney and Gale are starting to take more and more of a backseat to the new, as they call themselves in this movie, the new Core 4. And I really like that this movie is now centered on them. Let's just get into the two leads of this movie, Melissa Barrera and Jenna Ortega. They play sisters, Sam Carpenter and Tara Carpenter. I really loved that they brought in the same conflict from the last movie, where Sam is the child of Billy Loomis, who was the killer from the first Scream back in 1996. And I love that she's still wrestling with that. And not only is she wrestling with that, I like that the world around her has not been kind to her since learning this. What did you feel about the way Sam and Tara were used as characters, Melissa?
I think that's a big reason why I liked this one a lot more. I kind of struggled with Sam's character in the last film, and I think, just like you said, I think ultimately I kind of wish in Scream 5 that they just didn't really have the legacy characters, or maybe just not as much. I think I would have liked it maybe a bit more. Like, just give me some new characters. Let's do a new story with similar concept of the Scream franchise. But yeah, I think this one, Scream 6, I think they did a much better job with both characters. And I mean, Jenna Ortega, I feel like it's just, she's the rising star right now. Like, everything she's doing, I love. And I loved seeing her character more utilized in this film.
No, 100%. Jenna Ortega, whether it's X or whether it's Wednesday, she is becoming like one of the new actresses to watch, and I really, really think she's taken both these two movies to shine and show her talents. Melissa Barrera was someone I thought was okay in the first one. I think she really, really comes into her own grasp in this movie, and I think she now understands the tone a little bit more. Like she seems more comfortable with this dialogue and with this direction style, and I really, really loved those two characters. My new favorite character in this franchise, surprise, surprise, Payson Johnson, resident movie nerd. I love the movie nerd character. Mindy is easily my favorite character. She was my favorite character in the last movie, and once again, she's my favorite character in this movie. She's played by Jasmine Savoy Brown, and she's essentially the Randy-esque character of these new movies. And I like that this trilogy knows that, like, the people watching these movies are very similar to her, so they really give her, like, a lot of chances to shine and, like, show off her knowledge. Her brother, Chad, who I wrote down the actor, Mason Gooding, he's another good character, but I don't like him nearly as much as Mindy. But I do think the core four characters really do work off each other in a really, really cool way. What did you think about both Mindy and Chad, Melissa?
Yeah, no, I like them. I think Mindy definitely adds some levity to the film and like some comedy, which I appreciate. And then Chad, I don't know, like it's a little confusing. Again, I don't want to do spoilers too much, but like I just a part of the story, it just felt a little bit confusing with one of the core four, what we were actually doing there, in my opinion. I didn't love that, so.
No, 100%. I'm pretty sure I know what you're talking about, and yeah, just how his character interacts with another character. Like, it's a horror franchise. It was bound to happen, but at the same time, you're like, oh, okay. Definitely wasn't like one of my favorite moments of the movie. But yeah, in relation to the legacy characters, I really like that we are starting to move away from the big characters that made the first four Screams what they were. Now, I love those characters, but this movie definitely wants to have you highlight the newer characters. We're not going to be spoiling this movie, but to spoil Scream 5, obviously Dewey is not in it because Dewey tragically died in Scream 5. If you've been hearing any of the publicity about this movie, you know Neve Campbell unfortunately does not return as Sidney Prescott, and I'll be honest, I think they actually handled that fairly well. Like, they were not disrespectful to her character at all, and I really, really thank the filmmakers for not trying to go for an easy, like, gotcha moment, which it could have, because this is a movie where each Scream movie sort of has a different theme of, like, what it tackles in terms of horror. This one kind of tackles, like, the subversion of expectations. So there was something in my mind that was thinking, like, man, what if they do just something stupid with Sidney? And I was very, very happy that they didn't. Courtney Cox is back as Gail. I think it's really cool that now she's the only person that has appeared in every single Scream movie. Minus, I can't remember his name. The guy who voices Ghostface.
Roger Jackson, I believe.
Yeah. The only, like actor that, yeah.
Sure, it's on screen.
But in terms of legacy characters, someone I'm really happy they brought back was Hayden Panettiere, who we saw from the fourth movie. She played Kirby, one of the police officers, and I think she's even better in this movie. I love what they gave her to do and how they made her a part of the mission to track down Ghostface. What did you think about Hayden Panettiere in this movie, Melissa?
Yeah, no, I was fist pumping. I was so excited that she was back in this movie. She's definitely one of my favorites from Scream 4. I think overall I was really happy with how they utilized her. And yeah, I was glad to see her back. Sorry, I'm having a hard time like not spoiling things.
No, yeah. This is a slightly more difficult movie to like
Yes.
down. I think we're doing a fairly good job. One of the newer actors I wasn't a big fan of. I'll be honest. I think Dermot Mulroney as like the new cop was very, very cheesy, and I think he was just a little too over the top for me. And I just wasn't a big fan of his performance. Jack Champion plays one of the new students at that Chad specifically is friends with. I think he was okay, but like I also kind of had this issue with him in Avatar: The Way of Water, where I'm just not sure he's the best actor in the world. What did you think of Dermot Mulroney and Jack Champion, and were there any other performances that bothered you a little, Melissa?
I actually loved Dermot Mulroney's performance.
Fair.
I thought he was hamming it up and having a great time. In kind of where his character goes, and like I really enjoyed him in it. Even though, yeah, I think there's a little bit of goofiness to it for sure, but it worked for me. Again, I like Scream 3. And then yeah, Jack, what's his last name? Champion.
Jack Champion.
Yeah. He, I think, stuck out the most in regards to like performance and just the cast. Like he really didn't work for me with his character. Like I see what they were trying to do with it, but yeah, I agree. Like I kind of wish they maybe casted somebody differently. I think it would have worked a little bit better.
No, 100%. I like that you mentioned that like you like Dermot Mulroney because he was like hamming everything up, and something I find fascinating was like, so my personal favorite Scream movie, not what I think is the best. My personal favorite is Scream 2. And I'll be honest, I love Laurie Metcalf in that movie, even though she is performing for the people in the back. Like she is so over the top. And I think it just might be like maybe just the fact that one came out in 97 and maybe the fact that this one I'm watching in 2023, where like maybe just that sort of elements didn't quite work for me. But I totally understand that, like, if those elements are still working for you. One thing that has been used so often in these movies that I just don't think, that I'm starting to get a little tired of, I'll be honest, the big franchise speech of, like, guys, we're in a franchise, they do it again in this movie, I'm starting to get a little tired of it. Like, I hate to say it, I love these movies, but I think we can let that one rest a little. What did you feel when we got to that scene, Melissa?
Yeah, I won't lie. Like, I definitely laughed a few times in that kind of sequence. But overall, yeah, I'm getting pretty tired of that. That was definitely my husband's big complaint on the ride home. He's like, "Really again?" I was like, "No, I'm with you." Like, I think everyone's pretty sick of that. I don't know. I mean, I guess I shouldn't speak for everyone, but I don't know. I'm pretty over it.
Yeah, no, I think 6 movies in, and they've done it in I believe almost all of them. At the very least, they did it in the last movie. I think we can let that one rest a little, even though it does have a Letterboxd name drop, and I will always appreciate that. Which in today's movie culture, this movie is trying to like parody that. Like I think name dropping that app is very, very funny. One thing I will say, I genuinely think this movie has some of the best kills and the best set pieces in the franchise. There is one kill that involves a certain character falling to their death, and there is one set piece, like, all I will say is the scene where they are on the subway is maybe one of the best and most like tension-inducing scenes in this entire franchise. What did you think about the kills and the set pieces, Melissa?
Yeah, no, I think maybe that's why I liked, or one of the reasons why I liked this one a bit more to the last one, and it's hard to not compare them. But anyways, no, I thought the kills were really brutal, and I loved seeing that, because I would say, kind of generally speaking, this franchise isn't really known for like its brutality by any means, and so it was kind of fun to see it turn that up a bit more. And I think it makes a little bit more sense once we know the motive of who we find out at the end. But I think it makes sense, and I appreciate the intense kills for sure. It was a good time.
No, yeah, 100%. I like up until this point, the two kills that really have stuck out in my mind are the Rose McGowan. I forgot her character's name, but the Rose McGowan garage kill scene.
Yeah,
from
Tatum.
And the Randy broad daylight just into the van, stab, stab, stab kill are the two kills that have like stuck out. And there are like 3 or 4 from this movie that I'm going to be remembering for a while. And like I think because the same directors who did this movie also directed Scream 5, I think they did a much better job with this movie. Like there was one scene in this movie where like it looked like Ghostface was dead. And it looks like the deal was done, and then Ghostface came back to life. And I was in a packed house. Everyone gasped. And it was awesome. Like, when movies are doing that, that is when you know it's effective to me. When you have just the entire audience in the palm of your hand and just reacting in those fun moments. Did you feel like the direction was better, at least from the last movie?
Yeah, no, I definitely think it was. Again, I do wish that this franchise would maybe try something completely different. But, I get it. It's at the end of the day, it's almost the same exact thing in every movie, but it still really works well and like people love it. And why change something if it's working? But I definitely see improvement in this film compared to the last one for sure. Because like you said, I think some of the kills and set pieces were fantastic.
Yeah. I think it's very interesting that you say that you kind of wish this franchise would try some different things, because I'm honestly in the same boat. But the one thing I will give this movie credit is this movie, I think, really tackles into the legacy of the franchise in probably the strongest way I think we've seen in any of these movies, specifically because it references every single movie and specifically every single past killer that we have seen. And I thought that was a really, really cool idea to like say like what each person, what each killer had brought to the franchise and why they did it, and just reminding you like, hey, we've been doing this for 27 years at this point, and we've had a ton of different people wear that mask. How did you think this movie handled the legacy of the franchise?
Yeah, no, I think it did a great job, and I thought the Easter eggs in this one were significantly better compared to the last one. I think that's maybe another reason why I did not like the last one as much. I did not find as many, and again, I do need to rewatch it to see that. And I think that's another thing with these movies. I think they're very rewatchable. But I have not had the desire to rewatch this last one. But this one, I definitely want to rewatch because there was a lot of Easter eggs that I noticed on the first viewing. So I'm sure there's maybe even more that I maybe missed. But I think it handled the legacy of the overall franchise really, really well.
One thing I love with this movie and most of the other movies that they keep on doing, they keep on teasing that there's one character that we technically don't know if they are dead, and I am convinced that they are eventually going to return. Like, I don't want to say who it is, but this movie keeps on saying, like, they're not dead. That we don't know if they're dead. And I'm like, man, if they return, everyone in the crowd would go ballistic.
No, totally. And at one point I thought it was maybe going to happen, but I was like, no, too good to be true.
We do have a confirmation that that they are going to be making a Scream 7, so you never know.
Yeah.
One of the major one major complaint I think I had about this movie, and it didn't really happen until the end. I'll be honest. Throughout the majority of this movie, I was loving it. Like, I thought this could be maybe my second favorite Scream. There's just one little thing it keeps doing at the end that started to bother me a little, and that is the fact. This is not a spoiler. I think a trope of the Scream movies is you will often have a character you really like, or just one of the good guys that you will think is dead. Like, you will think they just got mauled and it's brutal, and then at the end of the movie, they're just in that ambulance and it's like, I'm alive. I think you can do that once per movie. This movie does it like 4 or 5 times to the point where I was just wondering, does death mean nothing anymore? Like, if Ghostface gets you, there is one character that is stabbed like 20 times, and by the end, they're like, I'm okay. And I'm like, okay, movie. Like, I get this is a dumb horror movie, but you gotta understand that, like, when you show a character get brutally assaulted like that, it needs needs to mean something in the end. Did that bother you, Melissa, in any way?
Yeah. No. I would say, like, on initial viewing of this, I had a great time. I loved it. I think I will say, like, the more I think about it, there definitely was some plot holes. There's definitely some things like that where it's like, okay, it's a bit ridiculous. Like, how some of these characters are like Jason now, just like indestructible. It's like, holy shit.
No, 100%. But I'll give it props. Like, other than that, and other than some of the performances, I didn't really have too many complaints about this movie. I really liked the new setting of New York. I think it was really cool putting it in like this big city. This is the third Scream movie that isn't set in Woodsboro. Am I correct?
Like, the third one was in Hollywood.
Yeah.
I guess the second one was at like the college, Windsor College.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, okay,
yeah.
Yes.
So yeah, third one that's not in like the famous town of Scream, and I think it uses the new city in a really, really cool way. I love it, the scenes that take place on Halloween, because like this type of movie where there's a mass killer going around on Halloween. First off, if you were actually dressing up like Ghostface, like, my thought is like, that is the most offensive thing like in the world. Like, you should not be like, really think about your moral code if you are doing this in this movie. What did you think about the setting and the fact that some of the scenes like took place on Halloween, Melissa?
No, I loved it. I wish the release came out in October. I think that would have like helped it even more. Just kind of how I felt with like the Batman. I wish that came out like more around like Halloween. Anyways, I just feel like it just kind of elevates it a bit more if it's actually around that time period. No, I loved the little Easter eggs too of like the different Halloween costumes that you see from different franchises and things. With it being on Halloween night, but yeah, like, you would think that like the ghost face like costume would be like not allowed or something, but it's just
Yeah.
There's like several people just out there wearing that costume, like it's no big deal. It's like, okay.
Yeah, 100%. And just the last thing I want to tackle on, and I wish I could get into details, but I refuse to get into details because this is oftentimes the most fun part of a Scream movie. I think this is a great opening kill.
Oh,
like,
absolutely.
Yeah. And to the point where like this movie has a theme of subverting expectations. They do something where I'm like, what? And then I'm like, oh. So I really enjoyed it. Were you a fan of the opening kill?
Yeah, no, I would say like the opening and like middle section of the film like really hooked me in, and like I loved it. I think ultimately just the ending didn't fully stick the landing for me, but yeah, the opening like kill and sequence I thought was excellent.
No, absolutely. I'm with you where I think if this movie kept the pace it had for its first 2 acts towards the ending, this would be like an all-time blockbuster for me that I would be like, everyone needs to go see. With it, I still really, really like this movie, but it just doesn't like quite hit that like level of excellency for me.
Totally.
But speaking of that, Melissa, we rate our movies on a scale of 0 to 10 videotapes. 0 is it's painful. Like, it's something that you never want to watch again. You physically hurt when you are thinking about this movie. And 10 is an all-timer. 10 is someone you could 10 videotapes is something that you could recommend to anyone. It is something that will stick with you for such a long time. It is like close to perfection. What would you give this movie on a scale of 0 to 10 videotapes? And remember, you can give half videotapes.
Okay. I think, and again, I saw this film like 2 hours ago, so it's very fresh. I would say 6.5.
6.5
videotapes. Yeah, and I would say 0 is Begotten. and 10 is Sunset Boulevard. So that's
Nice.
where I'm at with my scale.
Love that. Yeah, I think I'm gonna go a little higher than you. I had a lot of fun with this movie. It checked most of my boxes. Some of the performance didn't work for me. The ending got a little tedious, but like I think the highs of this movie are some of the best of the franchise. I'm actually gonna give it 8 videotapes out of 10. I think this is a great movie. I love that we are really focusing on these new core characters. And I really love that this franchise seems to have a pretty bright future. Now with this movie, the last one I was like, okay, we're continuing like this. This one I'm like, okay, we're in the clear. And I really hope for Scream 7 they just go balls to the wall, just trying new things. Because I think this franchise is getting to that point, especially with the 7th entry. Like you want to start experimenting with certain things.
Absolutely.
Yeah, well, we're going to leave this open to some comments. If anyone does want to comment, if you want to ask Melissa some questions about movies or this franchise in general, while we're waiting, I'm just going to ask you, Melissa. Something the Scream franchise is known for, like I said, are the opening kills. Let's not include this one. Of the 5 movies, what is your favorite opening kill in any Scream movie?
That is like such a tough question. I mean, I will say overall, like the first Scream is by far my favorite, and like, I mean, the opening for that film is so iconic, especially with just how it was marketed and all that too. But I think if I'm going with like my heart, I think it's Scream 2. I love that opening at the movie theater.
Oh yeah, that could be my favorite. Like here, you talk about it some more. I don't want to cut you off.
No, you're good. And I know it was parodied like in the scary movies, but like I don't even care. Like I just think that opening really works for me. And again, I love that it's set like at a movie theater too. I will say though, I still need to rewatch Scream 4 because that's the one I've seen the least out of the whole franchise. I've only seen it a few times, but it really surprised me the first time I watched it, and I do think it really has a solid opening kill sequence for sure. But I think I would go with Scream 2 as my favorite.
I think I would probably agree with you, simply for the sole fact that like when Jada Pinkett Smith is getting murdered in the movie theater and everyone around them thinks it's a promotional stunt, so no one is reacting to it. I think it's just like I've always found that really funny, even though it's really kind of dark in a way. Scream 4 is a really good one. Scream 4 is the one movie in the franchise I wish I could like more. Like, I definitely think it's a good movie. I love it up until, for me, when you realize why Emma Roberts' character is the killer. Like, I think that is maybe my least favorite motivation for any of the killers, is that, like, oh, you're the more popular one in the family. I'm bothered by this. And I'm like, really? This, like, I wish I didn't have... If I were Sydney, I wish I wouldn't have attention like that. Like, what are we doing? But yeah, if I were to rank the franchise for me, I would go 3 is my least favorite. I am one of those people, just 3 just doesn't work for me. Then I would go 4, 5, 6, 1, 2.
Okay, like you did that backwards?
Yeah, back. Least favorite to favorite.
Okay. Yeah, for me, if I was ranking them, would be from least to my favorite would probably be 5, 6, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Fair. No, 100%. I when I watched Scream 3, it didn't work for me, but I get why, like, that movie, like, I get why people do, there is, like, a subsection of the fan base that does appreciate that one. And it definitely feels like Wes Craven was the angriest when he was making that. Like, he was just sort of spearheading the industry, and I just wish it worked a little bit better. I will say, Parker Posey is perfect in them. Parker Posey and Patrick Warburton. Patrick Warburton doesn't get enough credit for that movie either. Totally. But yeah, Parker Posey playing the fake Gale Weathers is perfection.
Oh, yeah. That's a big reason why I love it.
That's totally fair. Parker Posey, one of those actresses that always seems to understand the assignment.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you so much for joining me, Melissa. This was a ton of fun to talk Scream 6 with you.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. Have a great night.
See ya.
All right, that was a lot of fun. Thank you once again, Melissa. But yeah, we are going to be moving on to our second review of the night, and that would be the new sci-fi horror movie 65, directed by Brian Woods and Scott Beck. This is a film about a astronaut played by Adam Driver, who is sent on a mission to deliver a group of passengers from one planet to another. At least that is what I was able to grasp from watching the movie. I'll be honest, this movie it spends very little time in terms of its exposition, explaining the plot, and I was a little bit lost watching the movie, but after it, I looked up, and it seems like that is what it was about, and while he is traveling, he ends up stranded on a planet, and plot twist, the planet he is stranded on actually seems to be Earth. And this movie takes place 65 million years in the past. That is right. Adam Driver's character is an alien from the planet of Somaris, and he ends up stranded on a planet with dinosaurs. And it is up to him to go through the trenches, go through the wilderness, and just survive and hopefully find a way to get off the planet. When I describe the plot of this movie, this sounds like a super fun time. Like, just Adam Driver just trying to survive against dinosaurs, just in this hunt, just dinosaurs are hunting him, trying to kill him, and he's just trying to survive. One of the passengers that was on the ship ends up waking up from cryogenic sleep, and he has to transport them through the planet. Like, this sounds awesome, right? It's not. And I think the thing that does not work about this movie is it has a very, very self-serious tone, which I think is fine. I think as a movie, you absolutely, a filmmaker should be able to make a self-serious tone, but it doesn't make the movie. I hate just to describe movies like this. It makes it boring. Like, watching this movie, I was so bored while watching it because throughout the entire movie, you're just watching Adam Driver's character just run around through the jungle and occasionally fighting dinosaurs. And a movie with this premise and with this tone, the worst thing I should say about it is, wow, I am not having fun. And I was not having any fun at all. And I think it's just because both the director and the actors are just taking it so seriously to the point where you just got to ask, this is an awesome dinosaur movie. Like, can we get things like happening? Adam Driver, I think, is fine in this movie. Like, Adam Driver is one of the best actors working today. You think of him in movies like Silence or Inside Llewyn Davis or Marriage Story or Patterson. This guy is not. Kirk described Jonathan Majors last week as he's not an actor. He's not a movie star. He's an actor. Adam Driver is the same way. This man is an actor, and he's treating this role with that level, and I think it's something that should have had a little bit more fun to it. Like, Driver, like, this is a movie where you're being hunted by dinosaurs and where you are trying to survive for your life. Like, you're allowed to act like this is a situation that you're scared of. You're allowed to act like this is a situation where there are actual, like, threats to it, and he just plays it very monotonely, and that I just found to be a little annoying. You have the little bit of backstory. The brief amount of backstory you get is that he has a daughter, and she has been waiting for him, but you never really feel that connection that the characters have, and I think it's just that you have no time to spend with these characters. I think it's due to the film's runtime. This movie has an hour-and-a-half runtime, which I'll give it credit. You don't, with it being a bad movie, I wouldn't want it to be any longer, but you have no time to really understand the motivations or understand the relationships these characters have, that you never really get invested. Like, I can't tell you the name of Driver's character, even though he's really the only character aside from this one passenger that he meets, who is another young girl, which, of course, you go through the things you would expect with this movie. He starts to view her as a daughter, and he begins to understand, he begins to have a connection with her, and therefore you begin to the filmmaker does that to hopefully make you want them to get off the planet more. You kind of do, but it's just, it's not as thrilling as you would want it to be. The CG that is used to create the dinosaurs in this movie, it's honestly on a scale. There are some scenes where I think it's really, really well done, and those look like incredible dinosaur effects, and there are others where it just kind of looks cheap. You got to think, like, Jurassic Park is a movie that came out 30 years ago. Dinosaurs still look better in that movie than they do in this movie. The CGI, it's not like a joke. Like, it's not like a dinosaur comes on and you're laughing at it, but it's nothing that where you're like, wow, this is mind-blowing. And I think another annoying part about the direction, about the filmmaking, is just that it has this weird, like, gray sepia tone that, like, you see in a lot of, like, movies that are trying to, like, be serious, and it wants to take you seriously. And I never find that as that effective of a filming method, mainly just because it makes the movie just unpleasant to look at. And I don't think that's what this movie was going for, at least in my opinion. I will give it some credit. I think by the ending of the movie, specifically the last major set piece where they're trying to get off the planet, I think at that moment it does get a little bit more thrilling, and I was a little bit more excited to see, could these two characters make it off and what was going to happen. But I think at that point it's just a little bit, it's just a little too late, where if this is an hour and a half movie and I'm really only invested in the last 20 minutes, you kind of have an issue. Again, this is not a movie that I think is horrible by any means. It's just, it left me wanting more, and it just left me with a sour taste in my mouth that it's just kind of a boring movie. It feels like a bit of a nothing burger, and I don't like talking about movies that way, but this really is just how that felt. And I think the fact that there was just really nothing that I can grab my hands to be like, that was excellent, that was really, really well done, I think shows how just unmemorable this movie did come off. If I had to rate it on a scale of 0 to 10, I'm going to give it a 4.5. 4.5 videotapes out of 10. I think this is a pretty bad movie. I think if this movie would have had a little bit more fun with its tone, if it would have maybe had a bit more like juice in its action scenes, if it would have fleshed out the relationship between Adam Driver and his daughter, and then Adam Driver and this new passenger, I think it would have made you really relate to the movie more and make you want to see these characters get out of the situation more. But what it is, it just doesn't really seem that effective. In no way do I really think you need to go see this in a theater. If you catch it on TV, it's not going to be the worst watch you have, but there are so many other things that are better to watch out there that I just can't recommend this movie by any sense of the imagination. But yeah, that is our 2 reviews tonight. I'm going to leave the comments open for a little while longer. If anyone just wants to ask me a question or just just put a comment in, we would love that. In the meantime, did any of you guys watch the Oscars last night? Best night of the year for movie fans, and I'll be honest, I was on cloud 9. I was looking at all the Best Picture winners I've seen. I haven't seen all of them, but I've seen a good amount. And Everything Ever All at Once is genuinely my second favorite Best Picture winner of all time. Like, this is a movie that has changed the way I look at life in the best way possible, and I can't thank the Daniels and A24 enough for that. And, like, the fact that it went home with 3 acting awards, I think Ke-Huy Quan and Michelle Yeoh, their wins are completely deserving. Jamie Lee Curtis, definitely a career win, but sometimes that's just what happens with the Oscars. And then, yeah, Avatar 2 winning Best Visual Effects, I really love that. I loved Brendan Fraser's speech when he won Best Actor. That's another guy that just, the industry did him dirty, and I'm so happy that he was able to have his moment last night. And yeah, I just think it was a very smooth running show, and it really, really worked for me. It was just a fun night, and that's what I want from the Oscars. I just want a fun night to celebrate movies. We don't have to worry about, like, we don't have to be making like pot shots at certain movies. Like, I want it to be a night of celebration and positivity. I know some people are like, oh, it's a little too fuddy-duddy. I don't care. Like, I don't care. It's about the art that night for me. And if it's a 4-hour show, I do not care. But yeah, I think that's about it. Thank you, everyone, for watching today. Remember to like this video and subscribe to the video store. You can follow me at on Letterboxd at _Cinemaster, Master. It's the best social media platform out there. Follow me on Letterboxd. Remember to watch other shows on the video store. The Set List with Andrew James Barr and Brooklyn Vale. This week we have Late Shift with Mike and Kelly. It's every other Friday. It's one of the best shows out there. Just recently this week, Caleb and Mike launched a new show of Caleb and Mike at Watch Siskel and Ebert, where they're just going through and watching old Siskel and Ebert episodes. It's so much fun. We have so many things on the video store. And thank you for watching this week. Next week, we will be reviewing Shazam! Fury of the Gods, as well as Inside, the new Willem Dafoe movie. If anyone has not seen this trailer, I could not recommend it enough. Just search up Inside 2023. I am so excited for this movie. I really hope that movie is just insane in the best way possible. And just remember, at the end of this month, March 30th, last Thursday of the month, we are debuting the Video Store Movie Club. We will be talking about the career of Pedro Almodovar with specifically 3 movies: Talk to Her, Voltaire, and The Skin I Live In. Make sure you watch those movies before the episode on Thursday. It's going to be a ton of fun. I'm talking with Nazario and Mike. Nazario's a big Pedro Almodovar fan, so it's going to be a ton of fun to just talk movies with him. Thank you all for watching. Once again, like, subscribe, and see you next week. Have a great night.
And the award for most vapid film review of the century goes to...
Okay, movie review. Okay, I thought it was beauty.
And he's now in cinema hell, where one day we'll all be reunited.
This is me at the Regal Cinema crying as I did through much of the film.